oneness with God, the 7 plagues of communist China. Depending on your religious background, you may or may not remember the plagues of Egypt that befell the Pharaoh until he allowed the Israelites to leave. I'm guessing she must have felt a little bit like the Old Testament Pharaoh, as calamity after calamity befalls his reign as China's Central Party president. To communists, there is no God, but the state. The deities are not allowed to influence the party faithfully. Religion is countered in any form. One of the chairmen of Mao's Cultural Revolution goal was the eradication of all religion. Xi is certainly doing everything he can do to accomplish that goal, intensifying religious persecution of Christians and creating a new translation of the Bible, bringing it in line with communism. Thus, the plagues are falling upon their heads. You can't have a good biblical story without a central character working on behalf of God. Now, for many of you, it may be pretty difficult to see Donald Trump as a savior come down out of the heavens, but he is the very first president in many, many decades to sincerely promote Judeo-Christian values. Whether it is his stance on abortion or his determination to stop Muslims from destroying Israel, he stands tall with unshakable faith in God and his nation. Plague 1, President Trump's election, was Xi's first test. The Chinese could no longer count on the buying political and economic loyalty from Washington. Trump campaigned on reworking bad trade agreements, and he followed up immediately upon taking office. Plague 2. By taking a hard line on trade with China, Trump forced them to come to his terms or pay dearly with tariffs, as Xi dragged his feet hoping Trump would be curtailed or our economy would suffer from the tariffs. That it didn't. China's economy began to tank. Eventually they gave in to Trump's America's First demands. Plague 3. Enter the armyworm and its moth, which has decimated hundreds of thousands of acres of corn and sugarcane. This creature can fly 60 miles in one night, carrying with it total destruction of crops. Xi was too slow to respond, and now it has run its course, forcing China to import almost all of their corn from the U.S. Plague 4. African swine fever has killed over half the pig population in the country. Pork is a staple for China, and they have had to kill hundreds of thousands of these animals to try to keep it contained. Once again, they are now having to import pork from the U.S. and other nations. Plague 5. Rebellion in Hong Kong. Spreading to the mainland is one of the Central Party's biggest fears. The democracy movement threatens the foundation of the Communist Party. Once their people taste freedom, it will be hard to bring them back. The internet and social media make it impossible to completely contain the movement. Few outside of China realize this, but China depends on their military strength more to control their own people than for defense. For as long as there is a modicum of contentment among their 1.4 billion people, the party is safe. Add any of the stresses in, like we've already mentioned, and you have a potential powder keg. Plague 6. The coronavirus. It's bringing back sickness and death, and it spreads all across of China and neighboring communist countries, revealing how inept, dishonest, and powerless the Central Party really is. By now, the Chinese people realize it. It was their own government, not a food market, responsible for this killer virus escaping. As the pandemic appears to be worsening, the government has increased controls over the populace. Meanwhile, the government goons have been looting village markets, taking what few supplies had remained, and causing more discontent and just general rage. Plague 7. Unemployment and hunger have followed their faltering economy. Transportation of goods across China is restricted and villages have become isolated, creating scenarios like what came to light this week as scientists sell lab animals to people for food. With no work for their people and no good to export, China will have to come up with the money to bail out the industries and either forgive individual debts or suffer massive bank defaults. Consequences of the coronavirus are coming to light. The American people and the world now realize how dependent they are on China for pharmaceuticals and other products. This will lead to an immediate drawback of manufacturing to the U.S. and other countries, something President Trump has advocated from day one. Add the worldwide economic devastation brought on by this pandemic, the weeks lost in Chinese manufacturing and exporting materials to other dependent nations, and what will evolve is a decentralization of manufacturing away from China. China's Belt and Road Plan, luring other nations into financial dependence, won't work without the wealth to pull it off. For at least a decade, China will be tightening its belt on a long road to recovery as they watch billions of dollars in potential trade go out the window. Imagine what kind of shape the U.S. would be in during the global crisis had Hillary Clinton been elected president. Okay, you can quit imagining now. Get that out of your head. Again, I am Michael. This is the Patriot Hour. God bless, Godspeed to each and every one of you. Make sure you are subscribed so when we do live videos or videos like this, or the ones where I'm sitting here talking, going over new news outbreaks and, breaking news, basically, you are all informed. Again, never take what we say here to be 100% truth, and always connect your own dots and all your own facts and come to your best conclusions based off all of that. And we'll see you back here on the next Patriot Hour update video.